Well, hey, Vision. Okay, anybody remember that Panthers highlight? You remember that? Woo, man, they were in St. Louis. When Smitty went double overtime and they won, you're like, man, Steve Smith, he was a game changer, right? Anybody here old enough to remember the North Carolina State one? You're old. Now you remember that, right? You're old. Now, I know Ron, he likes the Heels one, of course. Anybody here like the Duke one? Yeah. A couple Duke fans. Okay, cool. Now, we're finishing up our series today on game changers. Because I love this concept that, man, there can be a catalyst that changes everything, drastically changes things. We're taking 5 weeks on it. The first week, we were talking about Jesus being the ultimate game changer. That if you're new to church, you hadn't learned much about Jesus, hadn't read the Bible, well, here at Vision, we believe that truly he changes things. That literally we used to be this way, and now we can be different because he changes us. We believe that these different core habits in our life here at Vision, you see them in our lobby, that we can carry out those habits. And when we live them out, they are game changers in our lives. So we're going to go through those 4, and that's where a little hand signals are going to come in. So first of all, give me this one, okay? Give me this one. Okay, the word is connect. So say connect. Okay, and this phrase is that life is better, live together. So say it with me. Life is better, live together. All right, we believe that here at Vision. You hear us often say circles rather than rows. That truly, teaching happens in rows. Worship happens in rows. But when you actually go from this room into somewhere else where you meet in a circle, whether it's in a home or in a classroom or in a restaurant or just a couple of friends getting together, that circle, rather than just a row, that truly connection happens there. We believe that. Now, I'm going to teach on that today and unpack it. We got the 3 others to kind of review here. The second one, of course, is serve. So give me those hands. Give me those hands. If you see some of those hands, they're like, hey, I'm here to serve. I'm not here to give and take. I'm here to serve. Okay, so say serve. Serve. Now, the phrase of this one is that saved people serve people. So say it with me. Saved people serve people. You're like, saved? Saved from what? Man, we are saved from death, from eternal separation from God. Our sin was killing us. And if you have come to Christ, your walk with him, you're saved. You say as a response to that, man, I want to serve people. Literally, I want to give my life away like Christ served me. I want to serve others. Now, here at Vision, we are built on volunteers. I mean, this team up here this morning, all volunteers. Back there with the kids, all volunteers. Tonight with the students, all volunteers. We're going to have an event at the end of June. It's called our Volunteer Celebration. It's our 2nd annual. This year, we're expecting over 150 volunteers to come to our event. Who went to it last year? Am I go to it last year? Now, Emmaus, I didn't mean to embarrass you, but look at what Emmaus looked like last year. I mean, I don't know about this guy. I'm not sure who that is, but I was framed. But we had a great time last year at the celebration. This year, it's going to be out at Bit of Hope Ranch. We're going to have an amazing race type theme to it. And the reality is, if you've been serving since the first day, or if today was your first day to serve, or if you say, I want to serve, I want to try, then you stop by the Connection Center and say, how do I try? How do I test drive? Because saved people, they serve people. We really believe that. Now, the third one is this concept of giving. All right, so you're saying, okay, God, I'm going to live a life of generosity. Give me a thumb. Give me a thumb. See, I can believe that because the phrase, well, first the word is give. So say give. Okay, the phrase is, you can't outgive God. So say it with me. You can't outgive God. We talked about it last week. We said with your time, you can't outgive him. He's going to bless you. With your talent, like, man, I don't have many talents. Take the little bit you have, give it to God. He'll use it. Or your treasure. And you say, I don't have much money. Whether it's given a vision or you just live a life of generosity, you can't outgive him. And so last week, I challenged you at the end of the service and said, would you join me in loving on Brave Church, this church plant that's coming to Milwaukee in the fall? And as a church, we gave in person and online. So I called that pastor on Wednesday, Pastor Jake in Milwaukee. I said, Jake, we're going to send you a gift of $750. We're a young church. We're small, but this is what we're given. This is what we can do. And he was just shocked. I said, Jake, there's more. I said, one of our team members came up to me and said, Matt, we want some of our team to go. Whether we rent a van or buy tickets and fly, we want to take a team up there to help them launch. Jake was like, no way. I said, Jake, even better. I had some members of our band that said, if he could use us, we'll go up there to Milwaukee on launch day and play and help them launch. And he was shocked. And even yesterday, I was talking to somebody in our kids ministry, and they said, Matt, this summer, we'd like to do a little kid fundraiser thing with like bikes and tricycles and stuff. And if we can raise some money, we want to send it up to Brave Church to their children's ministry. Said, that's the evidence of people who say, you can't outgive God. What little I have, I'm going to give it. You can't outgive God. Now, the fourth habit is we're doing this. So give me this little thing here. It's like, come on. It's invite. So say invite. Because we believe that found people find people. So say that with me. Found people find people. You're like, that's different. Well, yeah, you've been found. Like, you found Jesus. Jesus found you. He said, man, I lock eyeballs with people all week who don't know Jesus. Man, come on. Come with me to church. Come with me to hear about God and his love. I've been found, and let me help find you and get you there too. Now, with this one, this is fun because we've been running this promotion or contest, you call it, during the series. It said, hey, bring people to church. Invite people to church. And when your friends would come to church and you felt the white card, the first timer does, and they put it on the bottom, who invited you? And we look on there and say, whoa, Josh and Jennifer Flowers. They invited this person. Well, we ran this contest, and what we did is we took some of the people that invited the most, and then we took the list of them and randomly picked some, and a couple of them were in the service, and they actually won a Visa gift card. You're like, hey, I like Visa gift cards. You like Visa gift cards? Vernon, he got one in the first service. He said, we're going to dinner on this tonight, on this Visa gift card. So from this service, some people that won were Tammy. So come here, girl. Thank you for inviting people to church. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Another one were the Flowers. So Jennifer, why don't you come up here? Come up here. Thank you for inviting people. And as we took, there you go, off that list, we took random. And actually, Ashley also won one. So, yes. Not Quentin. It's not Quentin. It's yours. So whatever you want to buy with that, you buy. If you want to buy something for him too, you can. But it's for you. All right. So clearly, we value when you say, man, found people. They find people. We invite people to church. And we believe in each of those core habits, they're game changers in us. When we serve and when we connect and when we invite and when we give, it changes us. We believe that. So today, we're unpacking this concept that life is better lived together. There's times we want to be alone. That's okay. But in general, God designed us for connection. God designed us to live life with each other on this journey. So have we got any fans from the TV show Lost? Okay, we used to love watching Lost at our house. So I'm always pulling some quotes out of that. My boy Jack, he was a leader on that island. I love the way he thought. And, sometimes he messed up. Sometimes he got it right. Well, I think he got it right when he talked about connection. So take a look at this quote. He said, if we can't live together, we're going to die alone. If we can be on this journey and just try it separated and on our own, we're going to die. And on an island, that's a lot more evident. But don't you think in this life too? If you're on this journey and you're like, nah, I don't need connection. I'm going to go through that on my own. I'm going to figure this out on my own. I'm going to go through life's up and downs on my own. Maybe in a crowd of people. Maybe some people that kind of know me at this level. But no, really to be known. To be known and have true connection. You say, if you don't have that, either you're going to die physically or there's just a part of you that's going to kind of die and wither unless we're doing it together. So we're going to look today at Jesus teaching about this. Where I want to start first, though, is my history in relationships. And I think back to growing up in Michigan and how I had such a variety of friends. And it was different when I moved down south and there was like a lot of diversity or even divisiveness. Because when I grew up in Michigan, man, I had friends, black, white, Arab, Hispanic, Oriental. I mean, we had this whole mixture of friends. To me, it was just natural. Now, my best friend, Spencer, we'd hang out together a lot of times at his house because his mom would buy the pizza. So we'd go there and get the pizza and be watching ball games or movies. And we'd shut the door to the living room. So we're in there watching it, eating pizza and doing what high school boys do. And she'd walk in and be like, whew, boys, open some windows. And like, if you got high school boys, you know what's going on there. So we as boys would bond and connect and say, hey, you're my friend. We're different at times, but you're my friend. You look different than me, but you're my friend. And I had that friendship. Now, I moved down south, and God gave me a chance to to seek out a Southern belle. I thought, man, I'm going to come down here and just find one of these Southern belles with the accent. And I came down here and I met Meg. And so we started dating and like, oh, so cute and young and skinny and, not no wrinkles and gray and stuff. But then in those days, we lived in Charlotte. We'd go to church together and we would look good on Sunday morning. I'd put on the tie, stuff, looking like a nerd and everything. I was like, oh man, nerd. Not Meg, me. But anyways, so we're in that dating relationship, that connection. Now, if you are in a spot in life where you're either dating, married, looking to get married, we'll talk about that in a minute. I continued down here in the South, building relationships with people, having challenges like you have challenges. Does anybody here, have you ever had a conflict at work? Somebody you work with, or somebody you used to work with, and you had conflict, or maybe you're having conflict. Okay, I had this situation for about a 2-year period. I was working with this lady on our staff, and she was the toughest person I've ever had to work with. It was conflict, and it wasn't just me. It was centralized around her. There'd be this conflict. She loved this word, approval, that everything that had to run through her had to be strictly approved by her. And I'm like, can't we kind of work with this a little bit? Can't we have some grace and flexibility? And it was so terrible. It was the worst 2 years of my working career in terms of relationships. And I remember at the end of it, I was off-site one day with the boss, and we were talking, and he said, yeah, Matt, that lady, he was kind of choosing his words. He's like, she got laid off today. And he looked at me and went, and I was like, he knew what she was like. And finally, she was gone. And honestly, I was vindicated, like justice had been served. But a lot of times it doesn't. And a lot of times you're in conflict and tension at work or with a neighbor or in a relationship. We're going to talk about conflict today. And you think about good relationships. Here at Vision, we're trying to build this place on relationships. We want relationships to happen in groups and in serving and in interactions to where it's not just individuals, it's a family that is continually welcoming more people in to say, hey, let's connect. Let's do life together. I love that. Now, Jesus, he talked about relationships. So that's where I want to look. I'm going to say, okay, Jesus, how do we get better than at these dating relationships and friendship relationships and dealing with conflict? How do we do this? Well, Jesus, he had been asked by the Pharisees about what was the greatest commandment. And if you knew these Pharisees, they had lists, dozens, hundreds of rules to follow, and they were trying to trick him. They said, Jesus, what's the most important one? Because they knew if he said this one, they say, oh, this isn't important. He said this one, they say, oh, Moses said this one. He said, actually, when you look at the commandments, he said, this is most important. And they leaned on him. In Mark 12, he said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind, and all your strength. He said, actually, and the second one is similar to it. He said, love your neighbor as yourself. He said, there's actually no commandments greater than these. And they were like, wait a second. They said, what, the rules and the walking and the reading this and the following this and all the regulations? He said, actually, it all boils down to love God and to love people. To love God and love people. And they're like, man, it's too simple. He said, actually, it's simple, but it's really not easy. He said, don't complicate life. Life is built on relationships. So Jesus, in showing us the top priorities in life, on your takeaway card, you see it's love God and love people. So what does that look like? What does it look like to love God? Literally, God, I think he looks at every day. You wake up and he gives you this blank canvas. And he says, Sean, he says, Courtney, how are you going to paint your canvas today? What's going to be on your canvas today? What are you going to pursue today and dedicate your life to today? He says, will you pursue the things I want? Will you dedicate the things to the things I'm dedicated to? And ultimately, he's saying, will you love people? Will you carry out my mission? And he's not saying, well, you got to follow these rules. You got to do all these things and check them off. He says, will you carry out my mission? And in that, I say, okay, God, I want to love you. He says the part 2 then is how do we love people? Because that's hard. Does anybody here ever have any trouble loving people? Because, I've heard sometimes even pastors say, man, I love congregations. It's just people I can't handle. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm not trying to connect with 400 people at Vision Church. I'm trying to connect with Tommy because I want to know what's going on in Tommy's life. That as a high school senior, that we connect and talk and pray about college, pray about things he's interested in, and say, I want to love people. And in that, God is pleased. He says, it's not always easy, and sometimes it gets messy. And not just for me to love Tommy, but sometimes for Tommy to love me. That's just who we are as people. It gets a little bit sticky, but God says, you're here to love me and to love people. Well, Jesus, he modeled that. We see that in Luke 2:52. And I love this verse because we've actually taken it and we have covered our children's ministry in it, where our curriculum, 252 Basics, is built on this verse. That it says that Jesus grew in wisdom and stature and in favor with God and man. So when you unpack that, you see in your takeaway card, quite simply, he's growing in number 1, wisdom, and number 2, stature, in favor with God and in favor with people, if you want to be a little more general. And so what does that mean? That means that Jesus, that he, in his mind, he said, I need to grow in wisdom. I need to grow in knowledge and in what's going on up here, not just in the things I'm doing. He says, I need to grow that way. We follow his model. Said, okay, I'm going to use this brain. I'm going to grow it. I'm going to get together with other men, iron sharpening iron, and I'm going to grow in wisdom while I also grow in stature. That Jesus, from a little boy up, from our kids and babies up to our students in here tonight. Guys, we had close to 50 teenagers in here 2 weeks ago. And it's amazing that as they're growing up, they're spending time with us. We're taking the model of Jesus and say, okay, let's not just grow you up. Let's grow you in here too, and in your heart. The second part of that, though, of the favor piece, that he grew in favor with God and favor with man. So what that means? It means for us that our relationship with God is paramount in our growth every day. We're trying to have jobs and make money and accomplish things, but we're following the example of Jesus to grow in favor with his Father, that we would know him personally. And this isn't just checking things off a list. This is a relationship that, like Chris was talking about up here, the choice to worship God in our decision-making is part of our worship. So not only is it favor with God, but the favor with man. The relationships we have with people, Jesus modeled that. Jesus had the difficult people to work with. Jesus had the people who loved him and the people who hated him. He said, as your Savior, I understand, and that I want to walk that journey with you, and that journey involves conflicts. So now, has anybody in here had any conflict in the last week? Any conflicts? I've had conflicts. So stand up with me. We need to get a little mind focus here on conflict. Now, conflict, a lot of times it can be very painful. It can be frustrating. Now, what I want to do here is kind of model a little bit of conflict for you. So we're going to do a light version of face-off. Now, face-off usually is to eliminate people by their answers. This is actually just going to show us your opinion, your thoughts. So when I show you a picture on the screen, you choose which one you side with, and you turn that way. So this conflict. First of all, in this state, here's a conflict. You're either a Duke fan or a Carolina fan. And if you're neither, you stand looking at me. Like, if you're a Wolfpack, that's fine, Mallory, that's fine. Okay, so whichever one you are, looking that way. I see Mitch over here. Okay, Tommy, you got some friends there. Okay, all right, so turn back facing me. Turn back facing me. All right, our next one, the conflict between Coke or Pepsi. Okay, I'm seeing a lot looking at Coke, Pepsi. You on that mind? Okay, that's not a bad one. Okay, so look back this way, because now it starts to get a little more divisive. All right, because I want to know, are you more of a morning person or a nighttime, stay up late kind of person? Okay, this is like first service, man. A lot of night people thinking, man, we need to start an evening service or something. Anybody up for that? Kirsten, you want that? A night service? Oh, even within couples, it's different, huh, Chris? Okay, all right, look this way for last one. So I want to know, when you talk about little furry creatures in your life, are you more of a cat person or a dog person? Which way is Kevin Collett going? Kevin Collett going dog. He said, no cat. No. Wow, a lot of dog people. Okay, so look back here. And we're laughing, we're smiling, because that conflict is light. It's small. When you're talking cats or dogs, I mean, unless you're fighting with your neighbor's dog, right? I mean, then it's tough. But when this conflict, it's light. Like, that's not bad. Okay, so go ahead and sit down. Because most of the time in our life, we talk about conflict, you're not coming away smiling. You're not kind of giggling saying, no, that was kind of cute. You're walking away saying, I don't want conflict in my life. How am I going to deal with conflict in my life? Or sometimes, honestly, you're going, I'm putting that on Facebook. That's how I'm dealing with conflict. I'm going to go all social media on them. No, wait. Let's hit the brakes a second and see what Jesus said about conflict. Because when we talk about connection in life, it's going to happen. I mean, we're human beings. We're going to bump up against each other. Conflict is going to happen. Well, I want to look to the game changer. I want to look to Jesus and say, how do we handle it better? So in that, Jesus was teaching. They're coming to him, saying, the Son of God, then teach us, man. Teach us how we deal with conflict. Because we're fighting about this. We're fussing about this. We got issues. And Jesus, in Matthew 18, he speaks into it. He says, if your brother or sister sins, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. Okay, so how many people are involved in that first conversation? Say it. Two. How many people? Two. Okay. You're not bringing it up in front of a whole group. You're not putting it on Instagram or Facebook saying, man, that Mitch Lewis, man, I can't believe I had him come over do something for me. He bailed. Like, he didn't even take care of it. In fact, he borrowed my truck. He tore it up. I'm like, I'm putting this on Facebook. Tell everybody, Mitch Lewis, he tore up my truck. No. Jesus is saying, if you got an issue, you come together one-on-one. Now he continues, says, if they listen to you, you've won them over. But if they will not listen, and you ever been in that spot where they won't listen? I mean, I've been there. If they will not listen, take one or two others along so that every matter may be established by the testimony of two or three witnesses. Okay, so and actually, let's turn this around. Let's say that, I borrowed Mitch's car. Man, I tore up his car. And he's like, hey, Matt, let's talk about this, man. You borrow my car, you left it on E, and, man, you scratched the door. Can you help me out with this? And like, nah, you take care of that. He's like, wait a second. He's going to Matthew 18. Now, you're going to forget a lot of things in a year. One thing I need you to remember is if there's conflict, you go to Matthew 18. So where do you go? Where do you go? Matthew 18. So Mitch is like, okay, I'm going to Matthew 18. He comes and talks to me one-on-one. It didn't work. I didn't say, I'm going to take care of the damage to your car. I'm going to do all that. So Mitch says, okay, back to Matthew 18. Okay, bring one or two witnesses with you. So he grabs Tommy. They come and see me. He doesn't grab everybody. He doesn't put it on Facebook, say, hey, everybody cast your vote. Is Matt a jerk or not because he damaged my car? He didn't do that. He brings Tommy. They come and talk to me. So now there's 1, 2, 3 involved in the conversation. So how many are involved in the conversation? Three. Not Facebook, not Instagram, 3. And we're talking. Let's see if it doesn't end there. All right, it says, if they still refuse to listen, tell it to the church. And if they refuse to listen even to the church, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. Now, let me be clear on this. This doesn't mean that during the welcome, as I finish, Mitch says, excuse me, church, let's talk about Pastor Matt for a minute because he borrowed my car and he tore it up. This does not mean that. What this means to me is that you go to the church for help. You say, there are 4 elders at Vision Church. Can I go to one of them and grab Mike or grab John Evans? And now it's John and Mitch and Tommy and me. So how many are in the conversation now? 4. Not Facebook, not the whole church, not your whole small group, but it's Mitch and a witness and an elder and me. And when you look at that, you see that Jesus is giving us a pattern or a biblical model to follow. So you look at your takeaway card. It says that model for dealing with conflict is one-on-one. So say one-on-one. Okay. Bring 1 or 2. So say bring 1 or 2. Okay. And then it's involve a church leader. So say involve a church leader. And where do we find this at? Where do we find this at? Okay, because Eddie, you're going to have to remember this because someday soon there's going to be some conflict in your life and you're going to want to go there and just go all crazy on their head. And you say, man, I'm taking care of this and we're bringing all the posse in and we're wearing them down and we're posting. And actually then Mitch is going to say, well, Eddie, no, remember Matthew 18. Mitch is going to help you. He's going to help you. And honestly, this isn't Pastor Matt saying do it this way. This is the Son of God. This is the guy who wants to do game-changing things in your life, and part of that is he's changing us. Now, this conflict, I also want to kind of cover it with a couple of virtues. And these two virtues, when I look in God's word, I see God speaking through a couple guys saying, these virtues will help you in this conflict. The first one is love, and the second one is peace. And you're like, of course it's love, Pastor Matt. I mean, it's the Bible, so it's either Jesus or love or whatever. No. This concept of love, it truly comes from the heart. That when there is conflict, we, as a follower of Jesus, must have something else that drives us than anger or bitterness or revenge or vengeance. That Peter, when he writes in 1 Peter 4:8, above all, love each other deeply, because love, it covers over a multitude of sins. That if Mitch is so unfortunate that I wreck his car, scrape his car, do whatever, he tries with Tommy, and he tries with John, and we try this thing, and even if it doesn't work, that he has a choice. He has a choice to say, actually, I'm going to respond with love. Throughout the whole process, at the ending, whether it's a positive ending or not, that love covers over a multitude of even my sins. And you say, man, that's a whole lot easier to talk about because, man, you don't know that person. Actually, I did for 2 years. I knew that person. Or this past week or next month, I will know that type of person, that type of situation that God says, Matt, can you show love to cover over that sin? And you're saying, man, they don't deserve it. Mitch is like, man, Matt doesn't deserve that. And God says to Mitch, well, actually, Mitch, you didn't deserve it either when I covered over your multitude of sins with love. So in my world, I'm saying, Matt, you need to strive to be a person of love so that it will cover over a multitude of sins. That second word, peace, that's hard too, because when Paul writes about it, Romans 12 says, if it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. You say, Matt, you don't know what they're doing to me. You don't know what they're saying to me. And God, through Paul, is saying, actually, I do understand. I understand that you're not feeling peace. I understand you're not feeling joy. I understand you're feeling bitter, that you want revenge. And Paul says, actually, when all possible, do your best to live at peace with everyone. Even if you don't get peace back, then you give them peace. Even if you don't get love back, you give them love. You say it's not fair, it's not always fair. But being a follower of Jesus means we have a chance to be changed and be different. So don't miss this. If Mitch goes through this process with me, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work, and he walks away from it bitter, it's almost like he's got this big backpack on him that he's carrying around because he's mad at me. I'm not even thinking about it anymore. I've moved on. And when he says, actually, I'm going to throw that off, because I'm going to love Matt, I'm going to live at peace with it, he's the one who's freed. He's the one that is experiencing game-changing because he said, Jesus, I'm going to follow your way with conflict. I'm going to follow your way in this whole connection to get more out of it than I could get on my own. So here's what we're going to do to finish today. Because I believe each of us have things we're wrestling with in relationships. I'm going to give you a challenge this week. I want you to read, you'll see in your takeaway card, I want you to read in 1 Samuel 20 about guys David and Jonathan. These two guys, they had a friendship. And when you get in there and read about it, don't let the world twist it and say, hey, those guys, they're like hugging and loving on each other. They must be gay. No, they're not gay. Those are strong, humble, godly men who are confident enough to say, Matthew, I love you, man. To say, Tommy, I love you. Say, Eddie, I love you. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. That's what these men did. And you get in there and you read this week, and that, plus what we're about to do, it can help. What we're going to do is we're going to pray together. And this isn't like a Pastor Matt prays and you just kind of like start getting sleepy prayer. Or a Pastor Matt prays and you're thinking, well, where are you going for lunch prayer? This is a Pastor Matt prays. Hey, we're being real. This is a Pastor Matt prays and we pray together about 3 areas in your life in relationships. that you in your chair close your eyes, or you walk down here and take a knee and you pray, and you say, God, I want this connection thing to be better in my life. Please help me. And after that, my band's got a song. We're going to sing, and it's going to tell us about how, man, that was then. We used to be this way. Now we are different. We have gone through game changing. We are going through game changing.